Relationships. I thought I will talk about relationships. It's always good to understand what are relationships. So we'll see it little more technically, because relationships are something which are causing problem all over the world. It's a global pandemic, and if you see what's happening to the society all over the world, it's time that we look into it in a very, very microscopic way, and also understand how they were managed earlier and how they are being managed now or mismanaged. So, if like just for fun sake, if I try to understand what do you mean by relationship, this if you break this word into relation and ships, so probably in olden days ships used to sail to some other country, to some other port for trade and establish relation with that area or maybe country, whatever it is, or the king who were ruled there. So the ships sailed to those ports to establish relation, I won't say relationship, relation with that country so that they can do some trade. So probably those ships can also be called relationships, because the purpose of those ships is to establish relation with some other country. So probably ships, this is what ships have to do with relation, and probably then we are having this word called relationships. So it's an interesting thing which came to my mind, like when I was trying to figure out, when I was doing some analysis about relationship, that how do we understand relationships, what is exactly the meaning of relationships. People have different idea about relationship, like mostly it is considered between man and a woman. And so if you are in love with someone, then you say I'm in a relationship, then you say I'm getting married. So marriage is also a relationship. So it's a relation, like A is equal to B and B is equal to C, so A is equal to C, that's a mathematical relationship. So we have scientific relationships also, which are established by experiments, and there are certain rules under which those relationships are established. So whether it is science, whether it is trade, so whatever it is, there is a relation. What is that relation? Relation is a transaction. So every relation is is there created to establish a certain set of transactions which have to be run according to certain rules. And if we can have an economical relationship with a country, we can have a cultural relationship, we can establish relationship based on sports. So some countries, they come together and say, okay, we'll exchange some in the area of sports. Somebody will say we'll exchange something in the area of technology, and somebody will say we'll exchange in the area of other trade, commerce. So different. So there is a purpose for every relation. There's a purpose for which relations are established. So and even if you don't have a relation, you will still survive. But probably it can be also driven by a need. So suppose one country wants, they don't have wheat, they don't grow wheat, but they say that if I establish relationship with this country, I can take wheat, and there used to be barter system, and in turn I will give something like that, something else which probably that country needs. So some country is strong in manufacturing technology, so they will say I will probably transfer some technology to you, and in return you give me this. So we create transactions. There's a transactional need based on which we establish a relation. Now what exactly a relation? Relation is it's like a set of rules, and which is mutually beneficial to both. So relation is something you enter between two parties which is mutually beneficial for meeting the requirement of both the parties. It can be country, it can be to companies, it can be to families, or it can be two people. So so this is a transactional establishment based on certain rules. So we kind of sit down and draft the relationship document, or what we call in other places memorandum of understanding, MOUs. We sign MOUs between countries, between companies. And today, like if you see marriages have gone into this kind of contract form. There is like a MOU between two people, which takes care of, which write down certain rules, and also looks after uh, post problem and exit. Like when you establish a relation with investor who's investing in your startup, so he creates certain rules. So what is your exit strategy? What kind of returns I'll get? So there is a mutual benefit, and there are certain rules, there are certain expectations which are there written down in terms of rules which the entrepreneur has to fulfill, and so if those rules are not fulfilled, then the relationship can turn sour, and then there can be other, then there are ways to get out of that. So there are rules for even that. So what happens if the venture turns into an adventure, if it fails, what will be the rules for that? So people basically, when they do transactions, so they become a little more less emotional but more transactional. So relationships were also, so when relationships started, so people start with courtesy calls, they exchange gifts. So it can be some kind of soft bribery, because today there are rituals. If you go to somebody's house, you have to give a bouquet. Now if you don't take a nice bouquet, then the other person might say, oh, he got such a cheap bouquet, he didn't get a nice bouquet. So if you are under pressure to give some nice gift, so you're judged by that, and that's how the relation will start. So when you're trying to between a boy and a girl, if they're trying to please each other, so they will do something to please. So it's all about pleasing. This person is trying to please, and this person is trying to please. So there is a beginning where you're trying to please each other, you're trying to impress each other by seeing what they want and how can I make them happy. So there is a in a professional scenario, it is professional, it is transactional, it's like a trade. But in a non-professional, at a personal level, it is not a trade. Actually, it is not seen as a trade, but it is seen very differently, and there are no rules here. There are no rules here, but there are expectations. There are more expectations. So what happens in professionalism, in professional environment, you have rules to create, do those transactions, and you follow those rules. But at personal level, there are no rules. There were rules in traditional society, but those rules have been left behind, and we have become a very modern society which is completely based on materialism and very high individualism and high egoism and highly selfish. So it has become from humanly, it's become transactional now, purely transactional. It's become like professional. So if you see the whole earlier relations which were created between two families, and how the relationships were established, that a boy got married to a girl, and so the two families got related. So when they got related, so obviously now there are transactions going to happen, because when you establish a family, when you get married, you establish a family, so you will have responsibilities with that. So the purpose of establishing a relationship between a man and woman is to create a family, and to create a family is created because this society has to run, this society has to sustain, so we have to procreate. So when you procreate, you create, the system is that you create a family, and when you create a family, so marriage is important, giving birth to a child, and to maintain a balance, we have to ensure that we don't we maintain a balance, we maintain a kind of a constant population balance, that we don't overgrow, we don't over procreate, or we don't undergrow, because to sustain this balance should be there, and we should understand that balance with the nature, that how much can we because nature is also, we are concurrently in resonance with the nature, and we are mutually dependent with the nature. We are part of the nature. So it's not that nature is something else, we are part of the nature. So we have to maintain that ecological balance, and accordingly we have to procreate. So that's regarding procreation. But family is there because both man and woman together because God created men and women, so they basically get together and run a family, and then they procreate, and that's how a society is there, a community is there. So now if you come to the core relationship, personal relationship between men and women, so if you look if you take some definition from the other relationships, there are those commercial relationships and all. So here also there are transactions. So when you enter into a relationship, you are told you are now a husband. You get designations. You are a husband. When you give birth to a child, they say you are now also a father and you are a mother. So you get another designation. Now what is a designation? In company, you have certain responsibilities. So designation, moment you get designation means it comes along with a package of tasks, responsibilities. And when that package comes to you, you get another designation when you become a father or a mother. So now you're a mother, you're a father. So what is a package? This is where the problem is happening. When there was a traditional society, things were taught in the family and they learned from seeing how the family is running. There was actually no need to tell, but they were made to perform those, and some kind of obviously teaching was also given by the parents, that and they saw what the father is doing, so they see and they grow, and they see a large family, so they see people from different generations or different age groups, and how what all they're doing. So it was learning by seeing. This is what humans do. They learn experientially. Experiment. They run experientially. They don't have to read a book, or they don't have to be told also, because everything is happening around them. So they are in a system. So they see there are transactions around those responsibilities which are based on the designations you get. So you are also employed here. This is also employment only. You are employed to manage a family. Outside you go, because now we have created the society is based on money. Earlier the society was not based on money. It was based purely on agriculture, purely locked to the nature. Now our society is very materialistic, so that's why now there is a job. So there is a professional job and there is a personal job. So you also are some designation in some company which gives you money, and with that money you buy what is needed for the house. So the man goes out, generally, again traditionally he goes out, the woman stays at home, and he goes out, he earns and is able to provide. So he becomes a provider that way, and the woman becomes a caretaker. So she is the owner of the house, and she has that designation that she has to be responsible for the house, because she stays home and the other person goes out. He stays out for 9 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, depending upon whatever he's doing, wherever he's working, whatever the conditions are there, or if he's farming. So if he's farming, he's sowing seeds, then sowing the crops. So he's spending whole day and probably evening, and probably he's protecting the field, so he also sleeps in the night. So he has his tasks cut out, which he has to do. The lady has her task cut out, which she has to do. But we have constantly actually modified these things. Now this is what we have tinkered with, and we have become greedy, selfish, lazy, and we call ourselves modern, materialistic, and egoistic, and opportunistic, selfish, and whatnot. So all this, whether I say a relationship which was established between countries, or when do they turn sour? Because when somebody stops performing what they are supposed to, it's not that somebody doesn't perform something which he's not or she's not supposed to perform. If you are expecting somebody to perform, so you have to be very clear, what are my tasks, what in this designation, what is my task, and if I want to change that, what are the rules? So if we change certain tasks based on certain designation, like if I'm a husband, what my rules are this. So if somebody is going to say that you also do this, so can someone create rules like that? So that has to be kind of understood. We need to understand this, that if we make changes, what are the rules, and are those rules justified or agreed mutually? If I am changing those rules, what are the repercussions, what are the conditions, can those changes be done, can those changes not be done? This is what is needed. And as you get responsibilities in these relationships, so I explained this is a relationship is a long relationship, because there are transactions till the end point, because there are different kind of responsibilities and different designations you will have, and different tasks you will have as you grow, and as you grow old, your responsibilities, your needs are all changing. So these transactions are there to meet all the needs of a person to live in this world. So all the transactions are actually based on that, and they have to be shared, and these sharing of responsibilities were defined based on the intrinsic characteristics of the species, like a man or a woman. So if there are certain characteristics of a man, which is, people say, masculinity, and then femininity. So based on that, now that's a different discussion. Somebody has to understand what is masculinity and what is femininity. So based on that, there are certain traits, and so these tasks were assigned. So a husband or a father or the son, so or maybe a neighbor, or maybe an uncle or aunt. So based on these different relationships, there are certain tasks assigned, and if we identify those tasks, and if we follow that, if we follow those rules, we understand this humanity. And all these are based on, all the tasks are based on core human values that you have to perform. You have to be selfless, you have to be not greedy, you have to be non-egoistic, and you have to be loving, passionate, compassionate, empathetic, and so many, caring and hardworking, not lazy, not clever and shrewd, but kind-hearted, generous. So if you don't have those core problems, the human values, then you will not fulfill your task. Then you will try to manipulate, you will become manipulative. And when you become manipulative in any relation, whether it's between country, it's between companies, if somebody is being opportunistic, trying to take undue advantage, or whether it's between a man and a woman, or a man and a man and a woman, or a woman, like, you have friends. So in any kind of relationship, if at any level, if somebody becomes aggressive, control, trying to dictate, trying to manipulate, so like between countries, somebody can become imperialistic. So they, by being imperialistic, they try to control, they try to take over, they try to run over the country, they try to enslave the country, they try to colonize. So then there is a imperialism. So there is a imperialism is not that the prime minister or the minister of that country is imperialistic. These are the human tendencies which are working, and it's you can see between countries, but these imperialistic tendencies are there inherently. So it's trying to control, for hungry for power, greed for power, lust for power, money, and fame. So these negative qualities which they can start working at any level, micro or macro level. They can work between man and a woman in a family. They can work between companies. They can work within the companies, between departments. They can work between countries and between groups. So this is what happens, whether it is a group, whether the political parties, they cross the limits. Political parties, they don't have some kind of sanity, that what are the limits, and how should they be contesting an election, and how they should be conducting themselves. We have to have moral code of conduct when the elections are happening, and still people break those moral code of conducts. So when there is an election, we established a moral code of conduct. So in all the relationships, wherever you go, intercultural relationship, we have to be sensitive about when we travel to some other country, we are sensitive about the culture of that country, so that we don't kind of antagonize the people over there, and we don't make them angry or hurt. So we don't hurt them. So we are like I went to Indonesia and the first lecture was given by the CEO of that company. I was in a telecom company and I had gone to audit that company. So we had a team. So the CEO of that company came and he said, I will like to talk to you about the cultural things first, because when you start working with the people here, so you should know about the culture. So the CEO came to address us because we were supposed to audit the company's different things. So the point is, the culturally people should not be shocked, and they should not be offended and hurt and wounded. So the relationship, you have to be sensitive to a lot of things, and we can't be just blindly moving in anything. Because if we fail, we have to look back that where did we fail, what did we do wrong. Okay, we can do wrong, we can say, okay, I did this wrong intentionally, unintentionally, and I'm sorry for that, I won't do it, and understand each other's, because if somebody tries to be imperialistic and force somebody that no, you can't do this and you should do this, and you can't do this and you should do this, and if you start forcing somebody, then obviously the relationship will not fail, because you cannot be. So that's why we came up with democracy, there was autocracy, there was dictatorship. So who likes dictatorship, who likes autocracy? So autocracy also failed and went away, and so we all prefer or you say this these countries, these Russian countries and all, Chinese, So I'm forgetting the name only now. So these different socialist and countries, and so different things, they failed, autocracy failed. So we all prefer democracy. So the tendency is to be democratic, but even democracy doesn't mean that there will be no rule. And socialism also doesn't mean there will be rules. So there is a constitution. We create a constitution to run the country, and based on the constitution, that becomes a benchmark. So benchmark is what? Benchmark, or even if you say religions were created earlier, there was no politics. Some thousands of years before, 1,000 years before, there was no politics. There was no politics. It was all religious. Every king had a religious advisor. So religion was nothing. It was just like a constitution. So somebody created certain set of rules. The core purpose of the religion was that humanity is to be maintained. The humanity should, whatever we do, should be based on humanity. The humanity is a benchmark. Humanity is the eternal and the infinite benchmark, wherever you are. And if you don't follow that, then obviously there will be problems. There are constant problems because we don't have owner of a benchmark. There are no owners of the benchmark. So everybody says that everybody is out to create their own benchmarks and modify these without really being wise. So if wrong people go on top, wrong people are there, and people generally are now become very individualistic. So what do you mean by individualism is basically, I don't want to follow certain rules. I don't want to follow certain rules. I don't want to follow certain norms. I don't know what is my designation and what are my responsibilities and tasks based on that designation. I don't know what kind of respect I should be giving to my parents, or what is the transaction between your parents and you, and how should you be behaving? Should you be questioning your parents, not questioning your parents, or fine, they would have done anything, but then we had certain set of rules that parents are parents and we should respect. But nowadays you see a lot of people are accusing their parents that they did like this, or they're forcing me to do like this. But parents are parents, they're doing for your benefit. They may be, as per you, they may be wrong, but these are all relative. And like I was hearing someone that I feel this is right for me. So you feel this is right for you, but tomorrow you'll feel this is not right for you. So we are not sure what is best for us. So we try to we get confused in choosing something rather than just taking a plunge into something. Like if I was not very keen to become an engineer for some reason, maybe because you have to work hard and study hard and it's very competitive. I would have preferred to be in administration, but probably I couldn't get into administration. But if you think administration is really good, it's so highly political. So nothing is good and bad. Like you have to just focus on what comes on your plate and then just swallow that and digest it without even thinking what you had, because that's a need. Like we eat food, we can be very choosy and we can just simply eat a simple food, but we can uh, become very fussy. Same way about work. So work, we can be very fussy and we can just take whatever comes, just do it, and then you'll start enjoying it because you're not thinking what is good and bad, what did not come. Like people who are more choosy, they are more unhappy. And if we feel that people who are doing not such a great job, every job is great. So somebody cleaning the car, or security guard, but actually they are happy. You may be feeling it's not good, it's a good job, but I think they are much happier than a lot of people who are sitting at the top level in the corporate. So it's not about being choosy, being jumping from one place to another, because you are driven by your own expectations. You're not following certain rules. So when you don't follow rules, you will be unhappy. And if you follow rules, if you follow those rules, if you follow those core values, human values, you understand these transactions. These are transactions, and every between two people there is always a relationship. There is always a relationship, and there will be some transaction. Somewhere there will be one transaction, somewhere there will be 100 transactions, somewhere there will be 50 transactions, somewhere there will be 20 transactions. So all depending upon what is to be fulfilled between those two individuals based on their designations. Between a man and his boss, there will be certain transaction. Between that man and his wife, certain transactions. So between two people, there is always a transaction, and when there is a transaction established, that's a relation, and that relationship has to have certain set of rules. So I hope I have made it very clear that the ship you are in, to establish a relation between two countries and two ports, has got a huge lot of meaning, and see every relation between anyone very, very clearly, and don't take it emotionally. These emotions are nothing but a bundle of shit, bundle of nonsense, bundle of negativity, bundle of thoughts which are out of, not based on core value, human values. They are completely based on your whims and fancies, and so there will be problems. So I hope I've cleared this.